Time is X minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's the Rocket Hour. Y'all are now tuned in. Time to hit the pick four that you'd love to win. If your money's coming slow, step on the faster track with your host, Ricky Pasternak. Let's go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Hour. I'm Ricky Pasternak, as always, and we do have Mr. Aaron Halterman back with us. He wasn't with us yesterday. He was traveling who knows where. Enlighten us. Where are you at the moment? Where did you start? Where are you going to end up? Give us the details.
Yeah, so I live in Joplin, Missouri, and we're going to visit my wife's family in Plattsburgh, New York. So, Joplin, Missouri, if you look, it is the most southwestern town in Missouri, and we're going to the most northeastern point in New York. So it's quite a trek. Right now I'm in Rochester, New York. So we're about 5 hours from Plattsburgh. We're going to go to Lake Placid first today, and then head up. So, yeah, it's been kind of fun. I've went through a lot of NFL cities. I've been through Indianapolis, been through Cleveland, been through Buffalo. So I'm an NFL expert at this point, I think.
Yeah, and speaking of, we'll get to some of that stuff tomorrow before the playoffs kind of start. COVID, we'll kind of touch all that tomorrow. We do have a lot to get into today. Before we do, we'll kind of just touch on yesterday's races. If you weren't here with us yesterday, Aaron wasn't with us. It was Mr. Magic Curtis Calloward himself. If you saw, it was not quite his time. It was probably 7:55 when he woke up. So Aaron's a little bit more with us this morning as he's on the road in our time zone, actually. Let's get to it. Let's start with yesterday's card. We'll start with race 7, and Dr. Shane was really the choice. It's ironic as we kind of were watching the odds. Dr. Shane only went off at 8-5, and Zap Daddy went off at 9-5. I'll start first. Dr. Shane kind of had no excuse, in my opinion. Wasn't all that fast. It was a touch on the quicker side, but these 7.5 furlongs, at least Magic and I were talking about it. It's really, really tough to kind of see how this race is going to go. Is it going to be a little quicker? Is it going to be a little slower? I think it really depends on the field. I know you didn't give us your choices here on the show yesterday, but you have your product every day. What did you think of the opening race of the sequence?
Yeah, I actually thought it would be a 2-horse race between those two. They kind of just looked like the best on paper. They were bet like they were the best. And I think you said it best. I had Dr. Shane on top. Coming into the turn, I kind of thought Dr. Shane had this race won. Just got out kicked, and you're right. There really isn't a lot of excuse here. It was just one of those things that Dr. Shane didn't finish the deal. And, Zap Daddy came and got the victory. But again, I really felt like coming in, it was a 2-horse race. Nothing really surprised me in this race. And really going forward, I think those 2 horses are what they are. I think they're claimers. I think if they run in those kind of levels, they're fine to bet back. We talk about on the show a lot when Irad Ortiz and Luis Saez are riding these claimers. You can usually kind of count on them showing up with a pretty good race because they're not going to waste their time on a low level claimer.
Yeah, no, I agree. I used the 2, 4, and 8, so I was able 1, 2, 4, and 8 actually. So I was clearly in. I was hoping the 4 would kind of make up some ground, but just never really happened. And I think the 2 just sat the perfect trip. You see 3rd and 4th, but you could take a look a little bit further down. The 6 Tenacity Zip, massive odds, really kind of pressed the 8. Not maybe to the point where he was a true win candidate, but he really kind of put the 8 to a test early, and you kind of saw the result of Dr. Shane kind of giving up. I wouldn't mind Dr. Shane back. But at the same time, I think we can do a little bit better moving forward. Like you said, these are claimers. They shouldn't move up. Gulfstream's interesting. Sometimes you can get to a 20,000 or 25. Maybe Dr. Shane there or Zap Daddy there. But I think you kind of hit it on the head. These horses are what they are. And they'll probably be short prices the next time out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move on to the 8th race. This was interesting because I was completely against the heavy favorite, Please Call Me Back. This was just one of those situations that I thought that at a short price, you can go somewhere else. I didn't think Please Call Me Back was really worth the price, what he was going to be. I believe that was the maker horse, and we could scroll down here and we'll see the claiming prices and all that other stuff if you guys want to do that on your own. I just thought that this was a really short price. And when you kind of get into these races, you really want to make sure, especially at the claiming level, that those are horses, if you're going to take an even money horse, that horse really has to win. I know Magic yesterday was relying on that horse to kind of come through. Did you use Shooting the Breeze or Majestic Row in any of your sequences?
Yeah, I had the 6 used. I did kind of like the 2 a little bit, so I can't sit here and say I was totally against the 2. I used the 2-6 as far as the multi-race sequences go. Yeah, again, it was one of those races. It is what it is, right? It's another claiming race, and we've talked about a lot of claimers on this show, and you're going to when you're talking about Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday races. It's one of those deals where a short price and a claiming field, I've said it a lot. I hate playing win bets on them because, they're claimers for a reason. They're usually not that reliable. And that's kind of my biggest takeaway here. If Please Call Me Back next time out, you get a little bit of a price on this horse, maybe take a shot. But as a favorite in a claiming race, I just never really like it. And it turned out to be the case here as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Yesterday I was talking about Majestic Row. I thought he would kind of get to the lead and kind of just do whatever he could to hold on, and he almost did. He almost got 5-1, and that's really the angle I was looking at. I kind of put him on top. Obviously, when you're giving the pick 4 sequence, you don't really care. But at the same time, that was the horse I really tried to focus on for the simple fact that I thought he could get to this lead and kind of hold on. I don't think it went all that fast. I don't really know there were any excuses. He had a race last month, so I don't think fitness was an issue. And Shooting the Breeze was almost, hadn't run since before Thanksgiving of 2020. So I don't know. I don't really love any of these horses. Kind of like you said, this is a better quality field than the race we had just talked about prior. 50,000 through 40,000. I think these horses could make their way into a small allowance. Maybe Shooting the Breeze can try that level. But at the end of the day, the one to look at is Please Call Me Back, like you talked about. Too short of a price. If you can get 2-1, 3-1, 7-2, maybe it's worth the shot. Let's attack the back half of the pick 4 here. And this race was wide open, apparently. I was all over Sunyan. I used Don Bourbon. That didn't work out. Brushed at the start. He was kind of done at that moment. What did you think, Superfecto at 19-1? I don't know how many people kind of had that horse on top.
Yeah, this one knocked me out completely. The thing that really pisses me off about this race is I really thought the number 5, Ashar, would come up and run a good race here. Last time out, didn't do a whole lot, but I thought, maybe just needed that race. Really liked the setup. Really liked the almost 5-1 price you got on him, and just got beat. And I was really, really disappointed because I thought, Ashar would win this race. But in the end, listen, I can't get to the 8. I couldn't never have gotten there unless I went all, and I didn't have the budget to go all because he's like kind of what you're talking about. Some of these other races were a little tough and you needed to spread. So listen, this was a hell of a performance by the winner, right? I mean, you just got to give the winner credit. Anytime you win by that margin and just blow out the competition basically at 20-1, you just kind of shrug your shoulders sometimes and say, well, that's Gulfstream sometimes.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Dennis is saying race 9 pissed me off. I think a lot of people kind of feel the same way. The only thing, and I didn't have that horse at all, so I'll be the first one to tell you, those horses that were in that race, Cost Basis and Foolish Ghost, those are really good allowance horses at NYRA, on the NYRA circuit in New York at Belmont, right kind of before they hit Aqueduct. It was over a sloppy track. That's the only thing you could kind of say, well, he just didn't handle the slop, because before that, he won really, really well in his second start. In his first start, he faced Dr. Post. Now, we're not going to sit here and say Dr. Post is anything great, but if you look at Dr. Post, you're going to say, well, that's a horse that's much better than this one. And then his last start was over a sloppy track. I'll even ask you this: did this horse deserve to even be 19-1? Not that we would have this horse, but I think 19-1 almost kind of was a steal as we kind of walked this race back.
Yeah, I think that's a fair argument. Yeah, but definitely offered value. I think the problem was I liked a lot of other horses other than this horse that was offering the value. So like I thought a Shar at 5-1, I thought, okay, that's pretty good value here. I thought this horse would be like 3-1. And a lot of times what happens with a horse like a Shar, people are on him, people are excited, and they run one bad race and then they're like, he sucks now. And sometimes they'll bounce back that second time, and that's where you get the value. And I was sitting there going, as I was driving and trying to watch this, and the wife's yelling at me because I shouldn't be watching racing and driving, and that's probably true, but I didn't care. I still watched it. I was sitting there thinking 1 minute to post, this is a classic setup where I think we're going to get some value on a horse that shouldn't be this. And we got that, and I was on the wrong one. So it happens. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, went on with this one, but you're right. Should the winner have been 20-1? No, probably not, but still not one I had.
No, I agree. And, I used a Shar also. I'm not going to talk about Sunyin because that was really, really disappointing. I'm not sure what the problem is there.
Yeah.
We talked about it for multiple reasons why Sunyin made sense. Obviously, it was Magic single yesterday. The thing with the Shar that was interesting that Magic didn't like, and I don't think a Shar ran all that poorly. I wasn't great, but what he did say, I was looking at the angle, it was second off the layoff. He was looking at it and saying, well, this horse about a year ago was running in the Mucho Macho Man Stakes. So for a horse to come to this level, clearly there's not something right with this horse. And that's fine. I was looking at it, the Pletcher angle, Luis Saez angle, which you probably were along the same lines.
Yeah.
He was looking at it at a $650,000 purchase price to now be running in this after his last race. If you're running in those stakes races and you're 4-5, you can't finish fourth by 8 lanes. Excuse me. That's just it. That's incredible. You can't do that. So that was the way he looked at it. I give him credit for not taking a Shar. I think his mindset, and we'll talk about the next race, he was looking for value. This was the race with the value.
Yeah.
So we kind of just missed the boat there a little bit.
Well, with the Shar, and why I didn't take it as a negative, when you get your balls beat in, you're going to drop. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes, right? And that's what happened to him last time. So my thought on it was Saya sticks aboard. That's good news. And they're just trying to get a win. They're trying to get some confidence. So I didn't really take it as a negative, but either way, it doesn't matter. He got his balls beat in again, right? So who really cares about a Shar at this point now?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say he'll be in for a tag.
Yeah.
At some point, I would guess. What do you think, 35, 40, something around that range?
I'd be my guess. Yeah, I'll probably go to Saffie Joseph and then win a stakes.
Yeah. So. I don't think this horse is much anymore. If he were to enter a race like that, then more than I'll let him go. I would let him go. Clearly, no one wants this horse anymore. But that's just the way it is. In the final race, and this was interesting also, we're going to get to it here. None of these horses really commanded the tote board. As we see here, the shortest price was 3-1, and that always makes for an interesting race. And the reason I say that is Magic hit it on the head yesterday. This was the race that he wanted to hit the all button. There was a massive scratch out of this race in the 2 Croy that really kind of changed things. I think Croy probably would have been close to even money, 6-5, 7-5. So he went the route of, all right, I like Croy. I'm not just going to make something up. And that was fine. I went with the 4 and 6. Playing hooky was really bad. Farley was okay. I thought that at least Farley, the last time he was in the claiming ranks at the 18,000 level, finished second with Jose Ortiz aboard this time around. So I thought that was an angle that I liked. And he wasn't bad. Did you use Cash Call Kit in the winner, or were you off of him?
No, I had Cash Call Kitten. So to Magic's point, I played a trifecta in this race, so that would have been my recommendation, and I actually got it. So that's good news. Of course, I wasn't on the show when I hit one. So, but I was a little disappointed with the payout. I think it paid like a 33, $35 for a 50-cent bet. So still, you bet 12, you win 33, $35. That's not bad. But yeah, I did have Cash Call Kitten in there. I'm with you. I had Playing Hooky in there. I thought that horse would win, to be honest. And it was a situation where the 6 and the 9 come in with the 5, and I used those 4 in the box. So my top choice runs like shit, but the other ones kind of bailed me out a little bit. But I was with Magic's thought process of this was a really wide open race. And I was kind of with the thought process of, hey, it doesn't matter what the odds of the horses that come in are that make this try. It's going to pay decent because it's such a wide open race where the bettors can go a lot of different ways. And sometimes that is the best time to play the try when you look at it and say, well, hell, you could play a ton of different combinations here. And it really doesn't matter if it's 3 4-to-1s or 7 2-shots that come in, it's still going to pay decent. So that was my theory. It worked out this time, but I was super disappointed with the 4 Playing Hooky. I really thought we'd see a lot more from that horse.
Yeah, I really like the 4 and 6. Obviously, I was on the 2 Croy before the scratch as well. But to your point, this is definitely one of those races that if you're going to play multi-race sequences, you need a lot of coverage. If you want to play it single, I don't know if you're going to get a win bet that you're going to be confident in. So I kind of agree to your point. You want to play a try box. Or at least an exacta if you do really like something with one horse on top and you can key it in certain situations like that. And that's obviously what you kind of focus on here. So it was definitely a wild sequence. The race that we thought we would get some value was kind of the race before when we kind of all singled or went shorter, at least from Magic's and I perspective. You got the try here. It didn't quite pay probably what you were hoping for, but you could see at the bottom Cowboys Hero Playing Hooky. Remember the main Honolulu Express. Those are more of the prices. It stinks that the top 3, actually finished 1, 2, 3 in the wagering odds. But that's part of the deal. I think you got the process right. It just didn't really – the results didn't match the process, but the thinking was on point, and that's kind of one of the sentiments we like to echo on the show.
No doubt. Yep, exactly. That's why we do it, right?
Yeah, so luckily for everyone, we will have another sequence right here. And what we're going to do here, we'll talk about this sequence, and we were talking about it before. We absolutely love this sequence. We'll start with race 7. We'll scroll this up for you. I'll start with you in terms of we love these turf races. We were talking to Mike Samich before, and he was excited 3 turf races as well. This was claiming for 35,000 through 25,000 fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upward, going 1 mile or 8 furlongs on the turf, 2 turns. How did you kind of see this race playing out, and who did you focus in on?
Well, I think this race is very similar to the one we just talked about that rounded out the card yesterday, where it is just a completely wide open affair. I think you can go a ton of different ways here. So I had the same strategy for this race as I did for the one yesterday that I wasn't on the show, but what I just kind of highlighted. I went with a 4-horse trifecta box as the bet from my standpoint of, hey, it really doesn't matter who comes in here. This is still going to pay enough to make the try a worthwhile bet. So I'll go ahead and kind of go through a couple of my horses here before I kick it to you. I liked Una Luna on top. That was the horse I used first. I like that Gaffleone gets aboard today. And I kind of like that there seems to be some other speed in this race. I really think Una Luna could work out a pretty good trip here when you kind of think that there could be 3 or 4 horses ahead of her. She could kind of sit along the rail in a nice stalking position. I don't really love a lot of the other horses in this race. I kind of think this sets up for a mild upset. I definitely think the winner of this race isn't necessarily going to be a standout so much, but it's going to be a horse that just trips out. And so that's kind of how I looked at this. And there's nobody riding better on the turf right now at Gulfstream Park than Tyler Gaffleone. If you're watching this meet day in and day out, guy's doing a fantastic job. So I thought it was very interesting that he gets on for a barn that he hardly ever rides for. And I just think he could get the trip. Another horse I like is the 6, I'm Listening. And it's kind of the same deal. I do think there's going to be 2 or 3 speed horses that come out, $35,000 claimer. Here we are again talking about a claiming race. And it just seems to me, these are the kind of races where that speed is going to fade a little bit. So I put number 6, I'm Listening, in second. Last time out, just missed at this level by a neck. Made a nice closing move on War Canoe, who is a horse I've used a lot and like. Cutting back to a mile, I don't think that's going to hurt this horse very much. So I'm kind of looking at some prices there. Those are 2 non-favorites as my top 2 choices, the 1 and the 6. So I'll kick it to you. You can go through who you like here.
Yeah, it's interesting if you see scrolling at the bottom, you went with 1, 4, 6, 11. I went with 1, 4, 6, 11. So I appreciate you giving me some airtime here so I can talk about the 2 other horses that we like. I'll start with the 4, Golden Curl. I just think this is too big of a class drop. If clearly not in the form that she was once in last fall, but that's okay. I'll kick it to last race was just not. She's not good enough to be at that level anymore. And some of her races, the one race at Ellis and the race in their subsequent start at Churchill Downs, she ran well. She stepped into a different group. It's a tougher group. It's an allowance, not optional claiming, not a true allowance, but stepped up and just clearly hadn't run. I think this is going to be good for her. That start 2 back, I don't care about. It was taken off the dirt, taken off the turf and moved to the dirt. That's fine. I don't care about that one. I wouldn't be surprised if she had that perfect trip. I think, to your point, Una Luna might be on the lead. I think there are going to be some horses that kind of push their way to the front that we don't necessarily expect. And I think Golden Curl might have the opportunity with Le Peru to kind of just sit in that second tier, that 4 through 6. It's interesting. Sometimes these horses on the turf, you kind of see them get hit. Not hit, but edged along or shoved a little bit more to kind of keep them up with the front runners. It's really weird. Some horses are really, really uncomfortable in that spot. She, through her previous races, didn't seem to have that issue when she was properly placed. And that's just some horses don't like to be in between and, whatever the case may be. That's a horse, I think 8-1 would be a shock if you got 8-1 on that horse. But I think we agreed there. Yep. The 11, I'll be honest, way overmatched, and this is more of just a Danny Gargan angle, to be honest. I don't know if this horse is really all that good. There's a lot of things that are concerning. August 19th was her last start. Okay, that's fine. That's a long time ago, multiple months. She's 8 years old. That's always a concern. 47th start. That's always a concern. The one thing you could point to, which I don't even really care about, Luis Saez, the last time he was aboard, he won. That was a starter optional claiming down here at Gulfstream. She does have a lot of Gulfstream success. Now, I'll be honest. I don't put that much into it as I would the Gargan angle, but it is nice to have a lot of Gulfstream success. 5 wins out of 10 starts here. 3 of her 13 wins have come at this distance, which isn't too much. She's finished in the money 5 out of 16. I just think that if you're going to play against Danny Gargan, you really better be confident. And this is not a race where I'm confident in anyone else. I see some prices that I like or potential prices. I just think this is a horse that, again, we've used this phrase all the time, and I think Mike Somich coined it, a defensive use. I just don't want this horse to beat me. I'd be really upset if she did, and I wasn't able to be a part of the sequence because she beat me. Yeah,
I'll just wrap it up real quick on this race because, we're not going to argue at all. I totally agree with everything you just said. Like to the T, like that never happens. So I don't know if we don't hit this race, maybe we should just quit. Right. Listen, I love horses dropping in class that have also shown speed. And that's what Golden Curl has done. You look a couple of races back, this horse can get to the lead and now you're dropping in class. Might just accidentally wire this field. I'm with you. I think the 4 is the one that got to run down. I'm a little worried about the 3 maybe pressuring, so that's my only worry. And then you're right. The 11 hasn't shown much, getting old, coming off a layoff, all this stuff. It's like, a lot of negative signs. Luis Saez, Danny Gargan, well, put him on the ticket. I mean, that's as simple as it is, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I guess 2 ways, what I would kind of say is if you really want to try to blow this thing up, try to find a horse that you might contend with the speed, or if you say there's a lot of speed in here, find a closer, and you could definitely leave this one off. We kind of look at pick 4 tickets more. I think this is, to me, and maybe to you, if you were playing it the same way I was, a survive and advance race versus a play against race. And I think that's one of the things with handicapping. You kind of have to decide how you're going to play this race in the sequence. For me, it's just a survive and advance type of situation. If she beats me, I won't. If she wins, I won't be all that thrilled because she's going to be a short price. I'm really hoping to go other directions, but I just think she's probably too good to leave off. So that's kind of where I stand there on that race. Let's move on to the 8th race. This is going to be an allowance race here, race 8, a smaller field. This is going to be for state-bred 3-year-olds. They're going 6 furlongs, so that's 1 turn on the dirt. I'll start here. I think you can make the case for a lot of different horses. I didn't really love any of the choices. I kind of like the 4 Gatsby for the simple fact that those stakes races, most of them are state-bred or restricted. Breeze on By, if you got a chance to watch Breeze on By, he's probably the best Florida bred for a 2-year-old Florida bred last year. So the fact that he had to face him on multiple occasions, I don't think helped. Then Poppy's Pride was another one. I just think if you don't know anything about the Florida bred stakes, especially for the younger ones, they all face each other. So it's not like Saratoga or Del Mar, or especially Saratoga, when you see horses coming in from other spots. These Florida bred races, they're dominated by these same horses. So you have Breeze on By, Boca Boy, and Poppy's Pride. He's not better than those horses. I think the odds reflect that. He wasn't a favorite in any one. I just think this is a spot where this is really where he belongs, or like you used the phrase earlier, he's going to get more or less his balls beaten in. He's just not. He can't beat these state-bred stakes horses. He just can't do it. That doesn't make him bad. I don't care about the first-time gelding angle. It's not a big deal to me. But I do think he'll be on the front end. And there is one thing to note here. Luis Saez picks up the mount. If you look at his previous riders, Daniel Centeno, not bad. I respect him. Christian Torres, along the same boat. Hector Berrios. And then Tyler Gaffalione in his one race at Churchill Downs. We're talking last June. So I think this is a massive upgrade in terms of the jockey standing. So I went with the 1, 2, 4. I'll kind of let you talk about it, but I was really strong on the 4. I think Gatsby's going to be really tough to beat.
So this is what we call taking a swing in horse racing, and this is what I'm going to do for this race. I agree with everything you said. Listen, if I'm playing a multi-race, or if you buy the product today and you look at our multi-race, I'm using Gatsby. No question about it. I think you have to use him. I'm actually going to take a swing that he finishes outside of the top 2, though, because I was able to poke enough holes in this horse to think, you know what? I think I'm going to take a small shot against him as far as an exacta. And the other reason why I think Gatsby's going to be like 3 to 5. So, man, if we can get the 1-7 exacta box home, hell yeah. We're talking a lot of money here. This is going to pay a lot more than a 1-7 exacta should in a normal situation with these 2 horses. So let me first talk about the horse I'm not going to use, Gatsby. I'm willing to say this is a deserving favorite. Absolutely. And if you look back, he debuted on April 17th at Gulfstream Park. He beat a horse named Golden Pal. Don't know if you've heard of him. Golden Pal, the best turf for 2-year-old, best 2-year-old turf sprinter in the country in 2020, won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Gatsby beat this horse. So I'm all over Gatsby next time out in the Bashford Manor. I'm like, this is a great horse, because Golden Pal had so much hype from Wesley Ward right off the bat. So, all right, Bashford Manor, next time out, Gatsby only gets beaten by 18 3/4 lengths. Really horrible. Next time out, drops down in class, $100,000 stakes at Gulfstream, loses. Next time out, another stakes at Gulfstream, loses by 22 lengths. Next time out, another stakes, loses. Same pattern, 2 more times. A lot of losses. Now we've gelded him, which almost makes me think it's like, well, maybe he's not as good as we thought. We're dropping him in class. That's good news as far as him winning. He needs it. He needs a confidence booster. Maybe this horse just isn't any good. Maybe he's just he developed early and he's kind of just regressed, and he's just going to keep on regressing. So I'm a little skeptical of him. I'm going to go against him as far as my bet. I'm going to go $5 exacta box with the 1 and the 7. The one picks up Jose Ortiz today. I think that's a really good sign. New trainer as well. Listen, I'm a big Carlos David fan. I think he does well. I don't think he gets a lot of press, but I think he does well. So first time out for Carlos David, I really like that angle. So I like the 1. The 7, one last time out, broke his maiden, speed, and then you look at the pace setup today. Who's going to go with number 7, Willie Boy, to the front? I'm not sure anybody is. I kind of think this horse might get lonely on the lead. If you got a lone speed going 6 furlongs on the dirt at Gulfstream, it gets me pretty excited. So I could see the 7 and the 1 really being tough for Gatsby. And if Gatsby was just a little overhyped and he's kind of just regressed and he's not going to come back, I think we can make some money here. So I took a shot against Gatsby and went with a 7-1 or a 1-7 exacta box.
Yeah, and this is interesting for the mere fact that I think we're on the same page. Gatsby might win this race by 4, or he might just run off the board. I think you're kind of on either side of the fence, and that's up for the individual bettor to decide. The horse we didn't talk about, I used the 7 also. I completely agree. I think this is a pretty tough race to move up the ladder. I do like the moving up the ladder type of angles, especially at the lower levels. You kind of see those maiden claiming, let's say, 20,000, and then they try claiming 16,000, for example. Not this situation. But it's like they're new to those ranks. Sometimes you want to see new horses against horses that have tried that level and failed. This is a big step up. He is facing state bred allowance horses, so that it's definitely not as tough as an open allowance race. That's fine. I was just a little bit more. He will go to the lead. I just don't know what's going to be coming behind him in terms of these horses are really, really good. If this horse can beat this field, then I was completely wrong. I did use him. I didn't love him, though. The 2, Famous Jen, is interesting. This horse is really, really consistent, especially since he got gelded. So his 2 stakes races were horrible last year. That's fine. He's not running that here. He faced open company in his last 2 since being gelded. He wasn't horrible in those. I think this is a race that it's kind of a drop down in class. He's going to be coming from off the pace. So, to your point, you have to look at the rest of the field and say, who's going to go with him? I wouldn't be surprised if the 6 is forwardly placed. I wouldn't be surprised if the 4 Gatsby with Saez is on the lead. The 3, I think, in his couple wins, one of them was on the lead. I don't know where it's coming from, but I think this race might be a little bit quicker, which would set up for Famous Jen. I don't know where the speed is coming from necessarily, but sometimes things just develop in a way we can't really put our finger on. So that's where I'm going with Famous Jen. I think this horse is going to get overlooked. I expect him to kind of drift up a touch because of Gatsby, and I think, to your point, Willie Boy will also take money. Real Talk is a good horse. Just like you said, Carlos David is really, really underrated. I kind of relate him to like a Rudy Rodriguez in New York. He doesn't get all the shine Pletcher and Chad Brown do, and Graham Motion and all. We can go on and on. He's really, really solid, especially with state-bred competition. So I completely agree with you there. The 9. I'll make the argument that the 9th is almost like a stakes race.
Yep.
This is a really, really, really quality field. This is for allowance optional claiming 62.5 for 4-year-olds and upward, going 5 furlongs on the turf. These races are interesting just from the mere fact that we've seen them fall apart really quick. We've seen the speed. You see them crawling home and just get home. How did you kind of see this field, and where did you look towards?
Yeah, I'm really hoping that we have a little bit of speed in this race. It kind of looks like on paper that's going to be the case. And when you talk about 5 furlong races at Gulfstream, that is usually the case. You usually have a little bit of speed. I think the 1, the 3, the 5, the 4, the 6, they all can kind of go, even the 2 a little bit. Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a stakes caliber race. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And for that reason, I went with a horse that almost won a really tough starter stakes last time out on Claiming Crown Day with number 2 Fully Loaded. I think if we get 6-1 on this horse, it is a fantastic price. He kind of the same thing with Carlos David. This horse has connections that they don't really get bet a ton at Gulfstream Park. They're pretty damn good at pulling off upsets. And This is definitely a race where, you got the Ortiz, you got Gaffalione, you got Saez, and then with the trainers, you got Maker and Ravelli and two Makers, Cassie. Let's go Sanchez and Zayas. I'm going number 2 fully loaded. I'm just going to go a small win bet here, a $5 win bet on this horse. You look last time out, I think got beat by one of the best turf sprinters in the country in Faya. I think that horse is really good. Only got beat a length and a half. And the thing I like about the 2 here, definitely doesn't have to be on the lead, but also has a lot of tactical speed. And it's kind of similar to the trip that I think the 1 is going to get in the 7th race. I think the 2 could get a perfect pocket inside trip, save the ground, save ground on the turn there. And I think he's going to get first run on the speed. And I think he's going to be the one to catch in mid-stretch. I think this horse is definitely going to be there with a shot. I love the 5 furlong distance for this horse. You look at this level, last time he was on the turf, it was a win. 4 races, that was 3 and 4 races back. This level on the turf wins. 2 races back, rained off the turf, draw a line through it. Last time out in a really tough Claiming Crown Stakes. I mean, at 6-1, I love this horse. So this is definitely where my money's going here on a win bet on the 2.
Yeah, no, that I didn't use that horse, but you made every strong case for this horse to be used. One of the things that is interesting, he's going to probably sit that spot, and he's extremely, extremely consistent. That's one of my biggest angles. No matter kind of where you place him or the situation, the distance, the surface, well, all 5 furlongs, but even that 1 race on the dirt, he wasn't even bad, and that's not his preferred surface. So to your point, extremely consistent. At least you'll get a good effort. I think the 4 Mo Maverick is interesting. Obviously, no offense to David Canizzo, but Mike Maker's just a touch better, and he's kind of looked that way since he got into the Maker barn. I know he's going to be a short price, except for that 1 race on the dirt. He wasn't even that bad, and he's not a dirt horse. So I'm not really looking into that race. I'll draw a line through that race. One can make the argument it was state-bred competition that he was running in. Okay, that's fine. He does have a ton of Gulfstream success, which I do like. 2 wins and 3 starts. The other one that he didn't win, he finished second. So he's finished first or second in 3 starts. Not a ton there. It's no surprise to see Jose Ortiz pick up the mount for Mike Maker. I just think this horse makes too much sense, but he doesn't have to have the lead. I think the 3 Dare Day is going to go. I think the 5 Yes I Am Free is going to go. I think the 8 Quirky is going to go. So I think Mo Maverick, while he wants to be on the lead, I think we might see him sit a touch off, a half a length off, a full length off, something in that range. And these horses that are going to go, it's going to be quick. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 21 flat, even a potential 20 and 4. It's going to be brutal on the front end, and I just don't see any of that tier A, or what I would say front runner horses holding on. It's going to be extremely tough. So to your point, fully loaded, we'll get what you would assume is that perfect trip. I kind of think the 4 is the same way. The 7 Tiger Blood, I've been really, really disappointed in this horse. Yeah. I bet him a lot, but I'm going to use him again. The only reason I am is if you're not familiar with some of the horses he's faced, Hollis and Primus Caratari and Leinster would destroy they would all destroy this field by, how many would you guess? 4 or 5 lines?
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know if we could really hold that against him. I'll also make the case, if you look at those races, except for the one last time out, which I'll get to in a minute, yielding soft. Maybe he just doesn't like any moisture in the track. Now, that could be me making a case for a horse that's 8 years old, and that's possible. I might just see, and this would be the last chance I give him. He drops in class. To be honest, I talked about it at the beginning. I don't really know if this is a drop in class. I think a lot of these runners can really make a case for a turf sprint down at Florida at Gulfstream. Maybe not the best turf sprints in the country, but this is a really quality field. So I would make the case, even though the class is listed a little bit lower, this is probably not even a grade 3, but a non-graded stakes race, as we like to say. He's going to be flying from off the pace. One of the things I looked into, at some point, even if you are the best horse, and we've talked about it all the time, you don't get to map out your trip. He was 8th out of 12. Now he'll probably be 8th out of 8 now, or 7th out of 8th. He's definitely the best closer in this field. I just don't think he'll have to navigate the traffic. If you see, it says some gain between foes. So this is interesting. You could look at the race in two ways. Either he's going to be so far back, he'll just run out of time. Or if he's within a few lengths, even though he's last, he can make that gain up. I'm going to look at the latter and go that way. Forget about the horses. I just think this setup, he's going to come from far behind. And one can say, well, he doesn't have enough distance. He's got 9 wins here in this spot. So I don't want to hear that the distance isn't proper for him. He's got not 8 wins out of 11 here at Gulfstream. For whatever reason, he runs at Gulfstream and runs well. Now, he didn't run well last time out to Fully Loaded, who beat him. I think the 12-horse field really did him in. If you watch that race, he really had a tough time of things. This is the horse that I was like, I can't wait to have back. What did you think? I know you kind of didn't single the 2, but that's who you put your win bet on. If you were to look at it from my angle, say you were playing multi-race tickets or maybe doing something a little bit more exotic, tries or exacta boxes, who would you have focused on? Earlier we saw Mike Somich's comment. He liked the 5. Yes, I am free. And that was the one horse that I had up next that I just didn't put on, but that's kind of a horse I would have focused on as well.
All right, so 2 things to address real quick. Number one, I'll put Dennis's comment up there. He makes the exact same case as far as the trip that I was talking about with the 4, and you also used the 4. Yeah, the 4 absolutely is my second choice. I get it. Mo Maverick has a great shot. Definitely agree with everything you said on him. And Dennis, your point as well. Here's why I'm playing the 2 instead of the 4. It's a value. Okay. It's a value situation. I look at this race and think Mo Maverick will probably be 2-1. And I look at this race and think, since it's so deep in a lot of ways you can go, I think Fully Loaded could be 6-1 or higher. So if I'm going to play a win bet and I think they're very similar, I'm going to go Fully Loaded. But hey, if you're going to play an exacta or a try, you better put Mo Maverick in it. So I am totally with you guys on that. Here's my deal. I don't want to play an exacta. I don't want to play a try in this race because the horses that I like are a little too short of a price. So I don't want to be boxing 3 and 4 horses and not getting that return that I want. I'm a little worried about that. And that's why I said, hey, let's take a swing with this 2. I like this 2 enough. So that was my deal. The 7 I'm with you on, and the same thing, pace setup, going to come from further out of it, but definitely could be up for a run. I also put the 1 in there in my 4 spot. I think this horse, based on Ravelli and turf sprints alone, is definitely one you got to look at. I got to ask you this. The 2 beats the 7 pretty easily last time out. You have the 4-7 as your only 2 horses and not the 2. So I think it's interesting that you did that. Why did you put the 7 in over the 2?
So I looked at it the same way you kind of did. Mm-hmm. I just think the 4 is better than the 2. So if I'm taking a look, I don't think any of these front runners are really going to hold on. While I wanted to put a few on, I think we agree that this is, it might not necessarily melt down, but I think you're going to see horses that are sitting the 2 or 4. We'll use those horses because that's who we like. Will probably take over. So if you're sitting, right, say tier B, it's going to be close. If you're sitting 4 through 6, you're not going to be 5 lengths off. You're going to be probably a length off or a length and a half or whatever. I just think the 4 is better. The other reason I said, look, Tiger Blood, I just think he's better. I also think when you have a 12-horse field, no matter how good you are, if you're going to come from off the pace, you're guaranteed to be 6 lengths back in this type of event. You're just going to be, because if, I was able to take a look at that race, he's not the horse that's going to be close enough. I think the 8-horse field just sets up better for him. If you look at some of his results, the better races, when he finished second, 7 horses when he won, which was at this level a long time ago, 8 horses. The other races had bigger fields. I just think a horse like that has too much to navigate through in such a short amount of time. So yes, I made the argument that these races will break down, that the tier A horses or front runners, as that's what I use that term. I just thought the 4 is better than the 2. If I was going to make the argument that the 7 was going to be too far back, then I would have gone 2-4. So that was my thinking there. I just thought the 4 was better. To your point, the 2 will have better value than Mo Maverick. I don't disagree there. I just think the 4 is better. I won't take a horse that I think is better for the mere fact that.
Yeah, I'm okay with you using the 4. It's just, do you think the 7 is a better horse than the 2?
I do.
Okay.
I think
that's the easy answer then. Yeah. I would strongly disagree with that. I think the 2 outkicks the 7. I'm really worried you're going to get knocked out by the 2. So that's where I will, because what if the 2 is better than the 4? Then you're screwed.
Well, yeah, and that's fine. I'm looking at it from a fact that if the 2 is better than the 4, who I think the 4 is better than the 7, well, then it won't matter.
Right.
That's the way I'm looking at it. If I was saying the 2 is better than the 7, then I would not agree more with your point, but I would see the logic there. I think the 4 is better than all of them. I'm just saying I think this thing could melt down to a point where it's like they're crawling home and the 7 have a lot less to do. I'm not saying the 7 is better than the 2. I just think it might necessarily set up better, but I think the 4 is better than the 2. You talk about value.
Sorry, not to cut you off, but basically, well, you've had a tier A, which is the speed, and you don't want any of those. Tier B, I want the best of the tier B, and then let's call it a tier C, which is the deep closers. I want the best of a deep closer. So you want a deep closer and a stalker. You don't want 2 stalkers. Is how it came down to.
Correct. And to be honest, I didn't want to cut the 2 off. I just went deeper in the first 2 legs. So I'm not going to put, I'll be the first one to admit, I'm not going to put up a ticket that's going to be $80 on here. If I was playing, off air, my own money, that's something different. And I might maybe post that on Twitter, but for the purpose of what we're doing here, I'm not going to put 4 deep in every race. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish here. So I had to take a stand. I completely agree the 2 will be better value than probably the 4 and the 7. I just look at the 4 and I think that's the best horse in the race. And I looked at the 7, to your point, and said tier C, I think he's the best closer. If this was a 12-horse field, I'm taking the 2. I think that also factors in. He won't have to pass as much. He might not be good enough, but the race I just think sets up a little bit better for him.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think logically what you're kind of laying down there makes sense. You want to make sure you've got a deep closer in this. And so to use that deep closer, this is a race you're going to go short in. You've got to cut off something. And if you think out of the stalkers, the 4 is going to outkick the 2, then why do you need the 2? I get it. I think you're going to be crying today, but I get it.
That's fine. I'm only 6 years old. I cry a lot anyway. To Mike's point, the 5 was the other horse that I would have wanted to include. I think you kind of went with one horse and you love it, and I think you love it for the value. If he comes into if you saw 4-1, say for example the 5's out of this race and the 8's out of this race, I think you wouldn't get that value. You might have a different opinion. It's interesting. None of us talked on the 8 Corky 7-2 morning line. No, thank you. We didn't even use this horse. We're time form guys. I don't know what he got back Beyer speed figure wise. I'll be honest. I don't use Beyer speed figures very often. I'll only use it for the biggest races because I think the talent between some of these horses at that level, the elite level, is so close. I want every piece of information. AOC 25 to AOC 62.5. Okay, 87 Beyer.
Yep.
Doesn't stand out. These horses have run better Beyers, I'm sure, in the past. Someone may correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know. This just looks like a horse that's going to take money, and I'll be more than happy to play against.
Yep. No, I'm with you. I didn't like the morning line price, and if it's something like that, yeah, I'm with you. It's one to play against. I'm totally with you on that horse. Real
quick, there are a few questions.
Yeah.
Dare Day. I'll be real quick. No turf experience, poor competition at Thistledown. Do you have anything else to add? That's not a horse that I want.
I love that you called it Thistledown. It's Thistledown.
Whatever. Thistledown.
These New Yorkers, they don't care. Anything that's not on the East Coast, they don't care.
Belterra, I'm sure you passed that on the way. I mean,
yep.
I don't need those horses. Maybe when he was 4, because last year he faced Dugout and lost. So we didn't talk about Dugout, but he lost to Dugout. I don't know. I think there's too much other speed. In a five furlong turf event, you're not getting away with it on the front end. more than likely. It's going to be very, very difficult. I don't have any interest.
That was my biggest deal. I always like a first-time turfer. And this one, the breeding, you probably should handle the turf. But, yeah, a lot of speed. Tough spot for your first time on the turf, too. That's a really big thing for me. This is a really tough spot to try turf for the first time.
And the other question, what do we think the opening quarter and halftime will be? I'll be honest, folks. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a 21 flat. I might have been a little bit bullish on the 20 and 4. That's fair. But at the same time, you have a lot of horses in here like Dare Day. If Dare Day has any chance to win, he's got to get to the lead. We talk about this as like Serengeti Empress. Now, none of these horses are Serengeti Empress, but you have to get to the lead. If you don't know Serengeti Empress, she has one way of winning. If she's even second by 1/8 of a length, she's not winning. That's just the way she needs to see open space and be on the lead. So I think the 3 kind of runs that way. I think the 8 runs that way. The 6 and the 5. There's a lot of what we would call cheap speed horses that are probably going to quit, or horses that like to run their heart out and stop. So I wouldn't be surprised to see 21 flat. Are you in the same boat, or do you think it might be a touch slower?
No, I think it'll be pretty quick. And that's, I think our handicapping definitely says that, So yeah, I think we're going to see speed here. I'm terrible at picking like exactly, but I'm with you. 21 and something, and then probably 44 and something, right? Maybe 43.
Yeah. It's going to be, I didn't touch on the half. I think it's going to be extremely quick as well.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the final race. We really got into depth there. This race was a little interesting as well. Try to get to there we go. Able to get to it all. It might be cut off a little bit. This is the last race of the sequence. Maiden claiming 20,000 for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upward. I didn't have a big opinion. I'll go through them really, really quick. I'll just kind of touch on the 3 that I liked. And then you kind of have your own opinion. It's funny we didn't use this horse, your horse, so which is good. The one I'll go through him real quick. The one I just think he's been extremely, he's been extremely consistent. I like to see her kind of get longer distance. I don't love Angel Arroyo, but I do like Kelsey Danner doing a great job, 20% there. So I like that, and I don't know. It has been pretty consistent. I don't love the horse, but that's one I want to include. The 2 Winnipeg Wonders, interesting. She drops in class. She hasn't run since May 30th. I don't know what to make of this horse. She might just be better even off the layoff. This might be a start where they're like, I don't know. We could maybe squeak by, drop her in, and a lot of people won't take the angle. And that's what sometimes some of these connections and trainers will do. They'll drop in a horse off the layoff, and a lot of people just might not be too bullish, and they can get an easy win and start building her back up again. I don't know why she hasn't run in so long, but I would assume it's a fitness issue, unless but it's kind of tough at this level to get that much news. So I just think that's more of a defensive use. I just think she's better at her best. If she runs anything back to her turf races at all, she'll win this race. The 7 was interesting to me. Rosie's Invasion. The horses at this level, the maiden claiming ranks coming from New York, I think are drastically better than the runners here in Florida at the maiden claiming level. Miguel Vasquez to pick up for Dominic Schettino is an interesting move as well. That's not a common duo. Dominic Schettino, one of the smaller trainers in New York. Miguel Vasquez, one of the riders that you'll see at Gulfstream into the summer. So kind of when the Tyler Gaffleones go and maybe Paco goes and Saez and, all these other guys, he kind of sticks around. So I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just saying he's one that some people don't always know about when you hit the winter meet. I think this is a big move, and this horse has shown speed at this level we've talked about at these lower level maiden claiming. If you can get to the lead, a lot of horses don't want to pass each other. I think at 10-1, this is a massive value that if you're either playing my way or Aaron's way, which is exotics for that race, you could definitely put this horse underneath. He'll be on the lead. She'll be on the lead, Even if she grabs second or third, you're going to get value there. So that's where I went. I went 1, 2, 7 for a few different reasons. I know you went with the 4, I believe. So yeah, I'm not against that horse at all. Just kind of walk me through your thought process and how you kind of saw the rest of this field.
Well, I'll start it off like this. The 1, the 2, the 7, those are my second, third, and fourth choices. So I'm 100% with you on that. I won't even get into them because I agree with pretty much everything you said. Look, it's a maiden claiming race. It's on the turf. It's the last race of the day. Sometimes just horses win, and it's like, why did that horse win? So I kind of looked for that angle a little bit because that seems to be the case at Gulfstream Park in the last race more often than not. So I kind of looked at it like, okay, let's try to find a sneaky one here. I ended up really liking a horse, and I'm shocked. This is an 0 for 11 horse. You might think, well, this is a really weird pick. But I really like the number 4 Matcha on top. Gets Luis Saez today. That obviously is a great thing. And again, we talk about this a lot, especially at this claiming level. When these jockeys move in on a barn that they don't usually ride for, and Saez has rode 6 times for the Sweezy barn in the last year. But they've won 67% of those. So that really caught my eye. And the big thing about this one is this horse does not have a lot of early speed. So you better have a decent pace set up for this horse to have a shot. I really, really think that's going to happen today. I think the 1, the 2, the 6, maybe even the 7 get out and go early. And I think if that happens, this horse is going to be coming from off the pace and have a good shot to run them down and pull off a little bit of an upset. You look at the speed figures, I don't really think this horse is going to get a ton of money here. There's some other ones that seem to be a little faster. I just think from a pace standpoint, this horse is going to give you a thrill here. I did $10 to win on the 4. I really think this horse is going to get a nice setup. I'm really hoping by this time we're up a little bit. So we're playing with Gulfstream's money and we take another little swing. I thought this was a card where, usually I have $20 win bats here or there throughout the 4 race sequence. I didn't feel like this card really had that horse you really want to rely on. I thought it was, hey, let's take some swings in these races. So the dollar amount is a little bit less that I'm going to use here. But I think the 4 is worth taking a swing with here from the pace standpoint and getting Saez aboard for a barn that he just doesn't ride a lot for. But when he does, they're in the money almost every time he's aboard. So I think the 4 gives us a thrill here. Hopefully we get 4-1. I think it's worth a $10 win wager.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Obviously, all the turf races you want for her. I also think it's important that they went a mile with her, then they went 5 furlongs with her, then they went 7.5.
Yeah.
It just kind of
the 7.5 is the key, right? Like the 2 turns, those 5 furlong sprints were not good.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I definitely think she wants longer. It's just one of those things to me. And I'm all about consistency. I talked about it earlier, and you definitely get that here. At some point, I'm just like, she hasn't won yet.
Yep.
Is she going to? Now, I can make the case that the 1 hasn't won yet. That's fine, but she hasn't gone longer. I can make the case for the 2, but the 2 is dropping in class for a tag. I can make a case for the 7. I think those races were just so much better. I completely what you're saying with the 4. I don't know. I really think her time was the last time out at this level, and she couldn't get it done. Now she was bumped along the way. Okay, I just think that if she beats me, I wouldn't be upset just because she's been given a lot of chances. But I agree. You're going to get the right value. You're not. I think at the end of the day, we might agree here if the 2 runs her race, anything that she was running last April or May, whatever, either race you want to look at, I kind of think that this is a foregone conclusion. So I don't think there are any other horses we wanted to talk about here. So as we wrap this up, I will read my ticket beginning in race 7. I will go with the 1, 4, 6, 11, with the 1, 2, 4, 7, with the 4, 7, with the 1, 2, 7, and that's a $48 ticket. Obviously, there was a lot of back and forth on race 9. If you have a bigger budget, you might want to take some out or include some, but that was what I had for $48.
All right, race 7, I went 1, 4, 6, 11 exacta box. Just real quick, the reasoning, I just think it is such a wide open race. I think bettors are going to go all kinds of different directions here, and that's when I really like to play a trifecta because it just sets up to where no matter what happens, you're going to get paid what you should get paid for a trifecta bet. Try to remember so it's a 1, 4, 6, 11 exacta box, costs $12. Your target should always be to get 5 to 1 back on that. So $50, $60 payout should be your goal. So that was it for race 7. Race 8, I took a shot against the number 4 Gatsby, just did a $5 exacta box with the 1-7, hoping Gatsby gets out of the top 2. Race 9, $5 to win on the 2. Just really like that 2 from a value perspective. 6 to 1 on the morning line, and we talked about that race a lot. I really believe there's going to be horses taking money, so we're going to get that 6 to 1 price. And then the last, I took a little shot again with a 4 to 1 shot, number 4 Matcha on top, $10 to win. Just the more I looked at it, the more I thought, yeah, I like this horse. I think this horse, has a right to really run a good race today. So that's what I went with. Man, Ricky, this flew by, right? This hour, it's over.
Yeah, no, it's always great to get on here and talk about, our opinions, our differences, how we're looking at it, all things like that. It's great. That's one of the great things about the sport. You have point A, like I said, I have point B, and point C could be the right point, and we were both wrong, or or we're seeing things like over the weekend. I had a great weekend. I was just seeing everything right. So, someone sent me that email. I was like, yeah, it's nice when you're spot on. And then there are times where there's a 1-horse field and I wouldn't be able to pick that 1 horse running by himself.
Let's promote the Rockets, man. They had a really, really good weekend. You were hitting everything. And so, yeah, people were really excited. We got some nice Twitter messages. Thank you again. If you've reached out to us about watching the show and you're enjoying it, thanks. That's great. That's what we do it for. But back to the Rockets. What do you got? Gulfstream, Santa Anita, Aqueduct. Are those the 3 for the weekend?
For tomorrow. Today, just Gulfstream and Aqueduct. If anyone out in the West Coast is listening, you might want to run on Thursdays. A lot of people would appreciate it, but no, that's fine. Not too many horses on the West Coast, so completely get it. We're back there today, Florida, New York. No, last weekend was great. It was one of those situations where you almost feel like you want to go play the lottery. Everything was just going right. And then there are those some weekends, I had, someone emailed me and said, yeah, everything was, it was great. And I was like, yeah, but just keep in mind there are those weekends that things stink.
Yep.
And things aren't going your way and you're getting beat at the wire or you're getting bumped in the stretch. They don't take your horse down. I always try to say, in my humble opinion, things even out over time. That's the way I look at it. Obviously, a lot of people remember their losses more than their wins. That's just kind of the way people kind of value these things. But at the end of the day, it's about having fun and being smart within your budget. At the end of the day, don't risk too much. More than you should. Let's not put our rent money on these types of things. But at the end of the day, it is about having fun, sharing our opinions, and being a community as a whole and kind of going back and forth. So it was a great weekend. Hopefully we can continue it. Your product is the regular Racing Dudes product as well. So check that out. I have my late pick 4 from Aqueduct as well. We just gave you pick 4 and ton of information for 7 through 10. Aaron just gave you his race by race. You have free picks. You have everything you need to get this day started. There aren't too many tracks open today. It obviously picks up tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday, and we'll touch on that. So without further ado, we'll sign off here. We'll talk some football tomorrow, kind of real quick, give our picks. We'll go a few different things, even though this is a horse betting show, but we'll get into that. So without further ado, everyone, stay safe. Let's cash some tickets. And more importantly, have fun with it all.